Welcome everybody to a brand new series on the channel, and welcome especially if you are new. My name is Stumpy, and today we embark on a brand new journey here on College Football 26, as we are going to start a new dynasty here today, following the Delaware Blue Hens, the newest addition to the FBS college football landscape. They're coming off of 4 straight decades of being an FCS and AA Division I school. They were a FCS perennial power with a rivalry against the James Madison Dukes, who just recently got moved up to the FBS over the last couple of seasons. But Delaware comes in as a 1-star program, a 67 overall, and they will open their FBS program history in Conference USA. We are replacing head coach and former Delaware quarterback Ryan Carty with our own former quarterback on this channel, Jesse Wagner of LA Rams Madden 24 franchise fame. He played at Nebraska, he was a quarterback, a gunslinger, and he comes in out of pretty much retirement from his football career to take over as the head coach here. Jesse Wagner enters as a motivator archetype, a level 1 head coach. And as you can see right here, this school has no history whatsoever in the FBS. Here is our chance to really establish a new baseline for a brand new program. The goal right now is to win 4 games, and we are not going to have CPU or coach firing on. That's going to be for CPU only. But 2025 is going to be a year for us to kind of get our feet wet with the Blue Hens and figure out where to take this program next. But this program played a lot of Division II football, a lot of Division I football, just not in the FBS. They won overall 6 national titles since the 1940s, with all but one of those coming in Division II. They won the FCS back in 2003. They have been to the national championship game twice since then, but they lost both of those games in 2007 and 2010 respectively. We're going to be playing in Delaware Stadium, which is a 23,000 capacity stadium at Tubby Raymond Field, and this has been a stadium that has a lot of history behind it. It's been there since 1952, and it's going to be there for the entirety of this dynasty. This program does not have a lot of NFL talent, but they do have a very notable player in their small crop of alumni, and that's going to be Joe Flacco, who of course played for the Baltimore Ravens for about 10 seasons and now has gone from team to team over the last, 7 years since he left Baltimore. And I believe he now finds himself in Cleveland, but he is easily the most notable player from Delaware. I believe he transferred to Delaware from Pittsburgh and then entered the draft and was a first-round pick out of Delaware, one of their very few first-round draft picks in NFL history. But we are taking them over, and our goal is going to be to add to that notable list of alumni. Our schedule looks like this. We open the season in Week 1 at home against Akron, who is the worst-rated team in the entire game. I think they're like a 61 overall. So kind of a FCS level program to kind of get our feet wet and kind of get acquainted with our roster and all these players that are kind of coming up from the FCS years with this program. In Week 2, we go on the road to face Deion Sanders and Colorado in Boulder at Folsom Field. That's going to be one of our tougher games on our schedule. But then in Week 3, we have our first ever rivalry matchup against James Madison. And as I said, this carries over from the FCS. This was a rivalry steeped in tradition, and that will carry over here. My plan is to face them each and every year, and I think the idea is to kind of swap home and away every other season. In Week 4, we play our first game in Conference USA against FIU. In Week 6, after a bye, we take on Western Kentucky and the Hilltoppers. Then we have another bye week in Week 7, so 2 quick bye weeks kind of separated by only 1 game. And then we face Jacksonville State in Week 8. That's going to come on the road at Amherst Stadium. We face Middle Tennessee in Week 9 back at home. Then we got to face Liberty, also a very tough game which will be on the road. Then we get Louisiana Tech, Sam Houston, and then we have Wake Forest, who's coming off a pretty tough season, but they are an ACC caliber program, so it's probably going to be a bit of a lopsided affair there as well. And we close our first season here in this dynasty facing off against UTEP at home in Newark. So that's your schedule to open this series, and we have a lot of work cut out for us because apparently recruiting is going to be a lot more difficult. The portal is going to be a lot more difficult this year compared to College Football 25, and we are starting off with, I believe, a bottom 3 or at least a bottom 5 rated program. Let's talk about this coaching staff, though, starting with our offensive coordinator, F Prestige elite recruiter, Terrence Archer. I think one of my goals here to open this dynasty was to get an OC and DC that could give us some recruiting points that we don't open with our motivator head coach, Jesse Wagner. And we get plenty of good stuff here, at least in this kind of first echelon, this first tier of recruiting for the offense. We get plenty of running game upgrades for recruiting, less time to fully scout running backs. Same goes for wide receivers and tight ends. We get the increased starting interest. We get more transfer interest from running backs as well, which should help us out because the portal is going to be a much bigger part of this game than it was in College Football 25. We also get some here done in this kind of second tier where it costs 12 points to upgrade. We get some for running backs and those pitch grades and my school grades. And we get the same thing for receivers and tight ends as well. And I think my goal is going to have to be to keep, if we do fire these guys, is going to be to bring in more recruiting coordinators because we're going to focus on the X's and O's with our head coach and motivating players and get those game day ratings up instead of going after recruiting because it's going to take a lot of points for us to open up these new archetypes for the coaching tree. So hopefully the coordinators can make up for what our head coach is missing at least in the first couple of seasons. Moving on, we also have an F Prestige elite recruiting defensive coordinator in Manny Rojas. And if we jump into kind of his little coaching tree here, he has 3 different areas unlocked between each of these 2 tiers. We get a lot of defensive line stuff. We got 3 of 4 on the top tier or on the first tier, and 2 out of 4 on the second tier. So plenty of interest will be going up for defensive linemen. And I think in terms of recruiting, I do plan to focus on players in our pipelines because I think that's going to be our best bet, especially for a school that is in their first season in history as an FBS program. I think it's going to be hard to draw in 3-star talent early on, so we're probably going to be seeing a lot of 2-stars coming in, at least for the first class. As for the transfer portal, I'm not really sure what to expect because the portal after the first couple years back in College Football 25 was kind of a letdown. You weren't really, bringing in too many players from the portal if you weren't like a really top-tier school. And a lot of top-tier players weren't even leaving their programs in College Football 25. And apparently that's going to be way different here in College Football 26. So I think that'll have a pretty big impact for us in terms of if we have like quote-unquote star talent, they might want to leave for a better program. And so we have to really hone in on guys that meet our my school grades and maybe prefer to play near their home. But speaking of home, here are the home uniforms and the rest of our uniforms with the Blue Hens. So we have the all whites here for the away. We have the same helmet pretty much for every uniform, so we can't really adjust that. But we do have these kind of Static Shock-esque uniforms, if you know who Static Shock is. I think these colors match with that perfectly. You got the all blue current home option as well. And then you have the away option, which is the white uniform with the blue pants, and of course your blue helmets. This is the midfield logo. This is the program logo, just a regular fighting blue hen. And now moving on to kind of a roster snapshot here. Obviously, based on the overall of the team, we don't have a lot of good players. And most of our good players seem to be skill position players on the offensive side. There are a couple of guys on defense that I think are worth keeping around. But it's going to be tough for us to win games if we were to focus on recruiting only. That's why I chose to go motivator instead, to get those game day boosts for the guys that are going to be out there quite a bit. But now let's talk about this roster. Let's talk about every starter. We got Zach Marker here at quarterback. He's got decent throw power. Accuracies aren't too bad, but he is going to be a redshirt senior, as many of our starters are going to be on this team. At running back, we have the highest rated player on the roster, and the highest rated player, of course, on the offense, Jonathan Silver, also a senior, more of an east to west playmaker, and he's going to be a workhorse for us this season. Behind him, we also have Saeed St. Fleur, one of our other top-rated offensive talents. Both guys, east-west playmakers, and hopefully St. Fleur can stick around for his senior year in year 2. Our number 1 wideout is also going to be a redshirt senior. It's Jake Thaw at a 76 overall. He's got really solid speed, good acceleration, and especially some really impressive spectacular catch. We're going to try and hopefully hone in on that. I do plan to use coach mode here in this game, which means that I'll be in charge of play calling, but it'll really come down to player ratings the rest of the way in terms of the awareness and in terms of making those contested catches. At number 2 at wideout, we've got Max Patterson wearing number 0. Out of Arlington, Virginia, he is a speedster archetype, and of course, as I've already mentioned, another senior in this starting lineup. But then we have a junior behind those top 2 guys in Jakari Kelly, who definitely lacks a lot of receiver skills in terms of catching, but he is an elusive route runner. I think that's going to be the name of his game, is hopefully, getting open, making nice cuts, and you could probably expect a couple of drops out of Kelly, but if he can get open, I'm not going to worry about it all that much. But then at tight end, we have a redshirt sophomore and Jake Burdell, more of a vertical threat guy. He's not much of a blocker. We'll see what he can give us on the offensive side. Behind him, we've also got senior tight end Elijah Sessoms here, who is kind of a do-it-all tight end. He's not really great in any one area, but he can definitely do a lot of things, more of a jack-of-all-trades, master of none kind of a player. He's got the physical route runner archetype, at least right now. At left tackle, we've got Anwar O'Neal wearing number 70. He's going to be a pass protector. He is one of the only non-seniors in this starting lineup, and hopefully he can protect Zach Marker in the backfield. We've also got Joaquin Roman, a raw strength left guard in our starting lineup. He is from New Jersey, so just over the border there, and he definitely has lots of power, but still has a little bit of finesse, at least in the run blocking game. But at center, we have a very well-rounded player here in Steven Demboski at a 74 overall from Hillsdale, New Jersey. And the power and finesse overall are looking relatively solid. And as I thought, again, kind of a well-rounded do-it-all center. We got a raw strength right guard here in Jaime Ramos. And unfortunately, he's like a 65 overall, so there's not a lot to like about his game right now. And he is a senior, so we won't have to deal with him for very long either. At right tackle, another senior, redshirt senior, Finton Bros, a well-rounded tackle with some of the highest awareness that I've seen on this entire roster. So even though it's like a one-year rental, essentially, hopefully he can do a good job in the run game at the very least. Now moving on to our defense, we've got left edge Noah Matthews, who is a redshirt sophomore out of Bridgeville, Delaware. Good acceleration, good strength. He'll play alongside or opposite of Jack Hall, our senior right edge, who's more of a pure power guy. Good block shed, decent hit power. Strength is in a pretty solid area, but the awareness is pretty low. Defensive tackle starter, we've got Keyshawn Hunter at the top of this depth chart. He's a pure power guy out of Maryland, 82 strength. Not like any one area where he's going to be great, but hopefully can help us stop the run until we can find some better high school talent or portal talents. He's backed up by Dominic Brogna, who is a pure power guy as well. Then we've got lurker Sam linebacker Blake Matthews, who is also a senior, one of the players that's from a further away state from Georgia, but 83 speed. Play rec's not very good, but then you have a guy with pretty high play rec here in Gavin Mal, who is going to be a junior, a true junior, signal caller. Hopefully he sticks around for year 2. At will linebacker, we've got Dylan Trainer, another redshirt senior, 81 speed, 80 awareness is pretty solid, plus the player's going to help out as well, so hopefully he can help us out in terms of pass coverage and things like that. Now moving on to our secondary, Keontae Jenkins is our number 1 corner, and for what he lacks in coverage skills, he makes up for with the athleticism. And the same goes for Khalil Ali, who I think is our most promising player on the roster because he's only a redshirt freshman and has a similar athletic profile as Keontae Jenkins, and the coverage skills aren't too far behind either, so hopefully he stays around and can develop pretty well. We've also got impact player, our best defender, KTC, who's backed up by a really good player in Hassan Manning as well, but I'm going to try and redshirt Manning and see if he can stick around for one more year because he does not have a redshirt used up yet. We've also got Kingsley Royal in the secondary to round out that group, and that takes us to special teams. We've got Nate Reed at kicker, 90 kick power, 78 kick accuracy. We'll just see what happens with him, but he's going to be a senior, so got to recruit somebody either from high school or in the portal. We've also got a senior punter in Josh Cuppets, 84 kick power, 76 kick accuracy, and that kind of rounds out the offense, defense, and special teams. It kind of rounds out this roster entering year 1, but as I mentioned, we have a ton of seniors. We have overall 29 seniors on this roster. Overall, that leaves us with 28 needs, and that does not even include players that will transfer away, so we're going to have a big recruiting class, hopefully, and that means a very different looking roster entering year 2. But here's my initial recruiting board. In the preseason, I've offered scholarships to 4 different players, 3 of whom are already gems, and I think one of our game plans for attacking the high school class is going to be to really pick and choose early on who our guys are going to be for us to target, because we're not going to have many hours once we get the year underway. We're probably going to be looking more at transfer portal acquisitions to bring in some of the stragglers in that class. But I think for now, if we can find a gem that is a 3-star, that's going to be a guy that we have to really send the house on. So we've got Garrison Colclough here, a pure power right edge from the Bronx. We've got a 3-star defensive tackle here, Jordan East, who is also from around the area in the pipeline. Again, pipeline's going to be one that we focus on. The Tidewater region is going to be one that I think we have to utilize to our advantage. And then we've got a thumper will linebacker and Martin Crumpler, also from New Jersey. So 3 guys in the immediate vicinity of our program, and those are guys for us to target. Then we also got a first quarterback on the recruiting board. That's going to be Walter Wesovich, a 3-star backfield creator. We'll go over these guys more in depth as the year progresses, but for now, those are going to be our top 4 targets. We'll look at their ratings and whatnot later on in the season. But overall, in Conference USA, these are going to be all of our opponents throughout the first several years of this dynasty. Liberty, New Mexico State, Jacksonville State, Western Kentucky, Middle Tennessee, UTEP, Louisiana Tech, FIU, Kennesaw State, Missouri State, and Sam Houston. Overall, though, we have quite the challenge on our hands here, trying to turn around a brand new FBS program that has no history in the FBS, pretty much from the bottom all the way into what I would hope to be a college football powerhouse. But given a lot of these grades being at F or D, D-, C-, only 1 grade above C-, by the way, that's not going to help out in recruiting, and I know that it's more difficult to bring in good recruits and keep guys around approaching the portal than it is in college football 25. So with a challenge like this, expect a very rough couple of years to open things out. Expect a lot of ups and downs, a rocky road. Expect plenty of obstacles both expected and not. I do think that we're going to be losing quite a bit of our early talent to the portal once the year comes to an end, because despite us having like 29 seniors, I think the guys that we have behind them still might want to go somewhere else. And that's why I do want to focus on bringing in players that are from around here and want to stay close to home. That's why the pipeline is going to be very important for us. But also, finding ways to get some of these key my school grades up is going to be a big deal. Obviously, it's going to be very hard for us to get the Championship Contender and Program Tradition ones up high because they're starting at the worst possible rating. But I do hope that maybe coach stability can improve over the first couple of years, and hopefully other teams in our conference play better to up the conference prestige, but that might be difficult as well. I'm not sure if that stays static or is a bit of a dynamic thing there. But in terms of other ones, like, it's good that we have a B- academic prestige because we can't really change that. So at least there's one good thing going our way. But it seems like everything else is kind of working against us here. And we're going to be on Heisman difficulty, but I'm going to be using coach mode. So I'll throw in some practice plays here to kind of show you how that works. But essentially, I still have control of the play calling on both ends, whether it's offense, defense, or special teams. But then everything else, after we snap the ball, is up to the players on the field. I'm not going to even move anything unless I have to, like on, some screenplays, you might have to throw the ball because sometimes the quarterback won't do it quick enough. But outside of that, maybe sometimes I'll jump in to control a ball carrier at certain points. I'll be there to make the kicks, both for the kicker and for the punter. But outside of those few situations, it's really going to be all up to the players on the field, which I prefer. I like relying on ratings more than player skill, because honestly, I'm not sure that I'm really good at this game. I've played plenty of games already, and I'm okay, but I want to see what coach mode is like. I have tried it out so far, and it's better than it was in College Football 25, where it was just completely useless. So we're going to be using that. That'll give us a better view of the field and a better overall game experience, I think. And hopefully I can make the right play calls and the right decisions come crunch time, whether it's using timeouts or going out of bounds or calling those kinds of plays. But it's going to mostly be reliant on the players that we have on the roster. So early on, I wouldn't expect a high level of football here given how bad the roster is. But that is going to about do it here, folks, in this first episode. Just kind of getting our feet wet, learning about this team, and getting prepared for week 1 against the Akron Zips, who I think we can probably really compete with to get the win. We do have a much better roster overall, and I'm expecting us to hopefully start our FBS history as a program with a 1-0 record. That would be pretty special, especially in our first home game of the season. So I'm going to wrap things up right here, guys. Thank you so much for watching, as always. And if you're new, please subscribe. Please like the video. And whoever you are, leave your feedback down below. And I will see you guys on opening nights as we take on Akron in Delaware Stadium to open this new dynasty. Thanks, guys, for watching. Take care and have a great day.